invite you to turn with me in your Bibles to the book of Exodus, the 8th chapter. We'll swap over to my other microphone while y'all look for that. And I'll just share with you for a few moments this morning a message that we could put a many different title with. But we're just going to look at some facts about sin. Different avenues, different areas that sin plagues us, that sin holds us back. The effects that sin has on our life, the effects that sin may have on others. And as we get started this morning, may we consider what sin is. Sin is a failure to do what we are obligated to do. God is our Creator. God is our King. Has given us as the church and given us as individual people responsibilities that He holds us accountable for. And when those responsibilities are not upheld, or when we drop the ball, so to speak, when we fail to carry out those responsibilities that God has given us, we incur a debt. And that debt is what we refer to as our sin debt. The Bible teaches us that sin is an expression of enmity. It is a violation of our personal relationship, not only between human beings, but between us as a human being and God as our Creator. And God is our King. When we sin against God, we are breaking that relationship. We are harming that relationship. We are separating ourselves from God's will and what God desires to be for us on a day-to-day basis. We're not expressing love and devotion to God, but rather we are expressing hostility between man and God, between us and Him. That is serious. That is something that we need to address on a personal level. Sin is serious. And sin is something that has to be addressed. Anytime we break the law of God, we sin. If we commit a crime today within our country, we have to deal with what? The consequences, right? We have to deal with the penalties. If we incur a debt, we have to deal with the repayment of that debt. With the leveling of the balance, so to speak. Sin in our lives both harm personal relationships, physically and monetarily. I can give you testimony of my own life, how sin has hurt my relationship with other people. I can tell you how it hurt my financials and my checkbook for the course of 20-something years. I paid school debts, and I'm fixing to graduate after 20 years. I've already had to pay back student loans. Why? Sin. Me failing to listen to God. You see, a lot of times we tend to think as humans on the mentality side, on the what we feel side. And believe it or not, there's people out there that commit sin. There's people out there that do wrong and they don't feel bad about it. Why? One of two things. I believe that first, they don't have God convicting them because they're not a child of God. Or two, they've allowed their heart to become so hardened that they've been given over to the mind of a reprobate. But it don't decrease the fact that sin is present in the world. And it's present in our life. Whether we realize it or not, this morning as we all sit here, we are all facing a bad situation in our life. And the point of this message is not to make us feel bad. to not to make us feel negative. It's for us to realize that sin has to be corrected, or else we will continue to suffer from it. This is going to be another simple message. I'm going to read the first 15 verses, and we're going to pull this context out of a time that most people that have been a part of church are familiar with. The children of Israel are captive. God has spoken to Moses. He has sent Moses down to Pharaoh. He's told him to let my people go, but Pharaoh won't listen. And we're going to look at a particular instance of Moses going before Pharaoh and telling him there's going to be frogs. And we're only going to look at this plague today and apply it to the facts of sin. Exodus chapter number 8, the first 15 verses. And the Lord spake unto Moses, Go unto Pharaoh, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may serve me. And if thou refuse to let them go, behold, I will smite all thy borders with frogs. And the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into thine house, and to thy bedchamber, upon thy bed, and to the house of the servants, upon thy people, and into thine ovens, and into thy kneading troughs. And the frogs shall come up both on thee, and upon thy people, and upon thy servants. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying to Aaron, Stretch forth thine hand with the rod over the streams, over the rivers, over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments, and brought up frogs out of the land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, Entreat the Lord that he may take away the frogs from me, and from thy people, and I will let thy people go, and they may do sacrifice unto the Lord. And Moses said unto Pharaoh, Glory over me, when shall I entreat for thee, and for thy servants, and for thy people, to destroy the frogs from thee in thy house, that they may remain in the river only? And he said, Tomorrow. And he said, Be it according to thy word, that thou mayest know that there is none like unto the Lord our God. And the frogs shall depart from thee in thy houses, and from thy servants, and from thy people, and they shall remain in the river only. And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried unto the Lord because of the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the village, and out of the fields. They gathered them together upon heaps, and the lampstand. But when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, he hardened his heart, and hearkened not unto them as the Lord had said. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for the day. Thank you for everything you've given us. God, I just pray that you be with us in this time, that you just allow this message to come out, allow the words to be heard that you would have each heart hear. God, I pray that you just allow us to focus solely on you, that we can put all the things of this world, all the things of the rest of the day behind us for the next few moments, that we can just be attentive, and we can hearken ourselves unto thee, Lord, and we'll open our heart, we'll open our ears, we'll open our minds, we'll be receptive to your word. God, change us today. Lord, if there be anyone in your house that don't know you as a Savior, I pray that you would just draw them unto you, that you'll show them today could be their day of salvation. God, we thank you for everything that you've given to us. Lead, guide, and direct us. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Exodus chapter 8. God's people, the children of Israel, are held captive. Pharaoh is holding them. God has called Moses to take Aaron with him to go down before Pharaoh and tell him to let God's people go. And now they've been told, he said, Pharaoh, if you won't let my people go, I'm going to have to send plagues. Verse number 1, Then the Lord said to Moses, Go to Pharaoh and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord, Let my people go, that they may serve me. You understand the context of this is a context of God's people being held captive. God's people being burdened, and God's people being probably mistreated, and God's people being not free to do what they want to do. I know it's a different context. I know the word captivity is different, but there's a lot of similarities between Christianity today and about right here. Sometimes God's people, even today, in the luxury of this world that we live in, we're held captive, we feel like. We feel like there's no freedom. Sometimes we feel like there's no hope. But we got to remember that even though God's people were held captive, God was still on their side. We know that God was still providing for them. We know that God was still taking care of them. We know that God was still delivering them. And we got to keep our focus on that today. We got to keep our focus on the fact that we're not just here suffering. We are here living because God has enabled us to live. We are here today blessed because God is still pouring His blessings out on His children and those who love Him. The Egyptians had turned the Israelites into slaves. The Egyptians were being very harsh toward them. But God's people need to serve God, not man. And that's what God was having Moses tell Pharaoh. You let my people go so they can serve me. Not so they can set up their own government, not so that they could have all the freedoms of the world that humans want, so that they could serve me. And God is going to deliver us today, not only as a church on the face of the earth, but as individuals that have submitted ourselves before Him. And His whole purpose for delivering us, God's whole purpose for blessing us, God's whole purpose for providing for us is so that we can serve Him the way He has created us to serve Him. That's God. Exodus verse number 8, or verse number 2 tells us, But if you refuse to let them go, Pharaoh, if you hold on to them, I'm going to smite your entire boundary, your entire territory. I'm going to smite every aspect of your land with frogs. Now, we can't just focus on the frogs right here. If we focus on the frogs, we miss the big picture. We have to focus on the fact that there is a penalty for not listening to God. There is a price that has to be paid when we disobey God. There will be consequences, so to speak. And I don't know about you, but I got thinking as I read through this, these people have taken God's people captive. These people have turned God's people and His chosen people into slaves. These people are hindering them from being able to serve God. Why not fire? Why not brimstone from heaven? Why not great earthquakes that'll swallow up the city and the enemies? Why not? Why not? Why not? Why frogs? And I don't necessarily have an answer for that. Except what we'll get to down about halfway through this passage. You see, in our human minds, a lot of times, we wrap ourselves up in what we think the consequences ought to be. Did you see what so-and-so done? Well, I think God just ought to strike him dead for that. It's true, ain't it? We may not say it, but we think it, because that's the way our human minds work. Oh, but that was just a little white lie. They didn't mean nothing by that. He'll learn his lesson. Oh, he could have absolutely destroyed you. We got to do something. You see, one of the facts of sin is that we as a people, we have to learn to see sin how God sees it. We have to learn to be able to see sin and the consequences of sin from God's point of view more than our point of view. Because we want to rationalize, and we want to make reason with how bad it is or how little it is. But God says sin is sin, and the smallest of sins is no greater than the greatest of sins, because they break the fellowship that I have with you. They break the fellowship and the relationship between me as the Creator and you as my creation, and they separate you from me for all eternity. And if we can learn that and see that today, we won't focus on why not the earthquakes, why not the great flood, why the frog. So we know that they've been told, you listen to God, you let my people go. Verse 2 tells us that there's going to be a consequence if they don't do that. Verse 3 further explains that consequence. In the Nile River, the greatest source of life in Egypt at the time, food, water, transportation, all that they had in the Nile would be swarming with frogs, and they would not only come up out of the river, they would come into your house, they would come into your bedroom. It says that they would come in to yours and your servants' houses, to all your people. Did you notice down there it said it would come into your oven? It will come into your kneading troughs. Every aspect of your life is going to be covered by frogs. Could you imagine that? I don't know about you, but I don't really care for frogs. They're harmless. They jump around at night in the driveway and scare me. They're slimy. They're what, man? Cold? Yeah, they're cold. They make a lot of noise sometimes. They eat good. But I'm talking about one or two around my house. Could you imagine going to bed at night and pulling the sheet up over you and 500,000 frogs? Could you imagine getting up in the middle of the night and your little toes on your floor smashing between frogs? Could you imagine getting your toothbrush and shaking the frogs off of it and brushing your teeth? Could you imagine going to get your pizza out of the oven and it not smelling like fresh baked pizza, but it smells like toasty frogs? You see, every aspect of their life was going to be covered by frogs. It was an annoyance. It was a bother. Surely we could open our box of Cheerios and pour out some breakfast, but when I opened the box, frogs jumped out of my Cheerios. You see, the application for us today is that's exactly what sin does to our lives. We just sometimes don't realize it. You see, we can't just sin and walk away from the consequence. You all could probably give testimony as I could of consequences of sin that I've had that I'm still experiencing today. Because sin leaves a mark. Because sin leaves a scar. Because sin and the consequences of sin is all around us. Verse number 4, the frogs will come up on you and your people and all your servants. Okay. The Egyptians, they're the ones that committed the sin. They're going to be the ones that get punished. The plague was designed for just the Egyptians, right? Well, it ain't fair, preacher. Not all of them people in Egypt believed in that policy. Not all of them people probably believed that the children of Israel ought to be Pharaoh's slaves. That's a lesson to us, for us to truly understand that sin in our life today, it affects a whole lot more than us. Sin committed by God's people today is the reason that the world has lost a lot of the stronghold in family. It is the reason that we've lost a lot of the morals that the world has known. Sin does more than just affect the person that committed it. It affects all of those around. I'm glad that we have a children's ministry. And if you don't mind a minute, I just want to speak openly. And I'm not judging anybody, but I want to use something that's close to us. And I'm not singling out any parents, but there's a lot of these children that are living a life today because of the sin of their family. There's a lot of these children that struggle day in and day out. And if you don't understand what those struggles are, come spend some time with us in our children's ministry. Go door with us. And again, I'm not judging those families, because I struggled with things my mom and dad did growing up. And I grew up in church 3 times a week. Some of your children are struggling probably with things that you've done. The fact is, we have to understand what sin is. And we have to see sin from God's point of view. That it's more than just us when we make that decision to be disobedient. It is affecting everybody around us. Our earthly families and our Christian families. Imagine if this sanctuary today was to become full of frogs. Some of you all that are tired and sleepy right now wouldn't be tired and sleepy. You'd be awake. Some of you all that are smiling right now wouldn't be smiling. Some of you all that are sitting real still and attentive, you probably wouldn't be sitting real still and attentive. Because sin disrupts every aspect of our life. But Pharaoh wouldn't let him go. So Moses went to Aaron. And he told him to stretch out your hand in verse number 5. Stretch out your staff over the rivers, over the streams, over the ponds, over the pools, and have them frogs come up onto the land as God said. God is demonstrating His power right here. Because it wasn't just Moses. Moses was just telling somebody else what God said to do with God meant. And He allowed the frogs to jump out. Verse number 6, so Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt. The frogs came up and covered the whole land. They were everywhere. You know, I can imagine. We can apply this to our mentality as humans. All the little boys are like, this is cool. And they're holding these frogs and they're pitching them back and forth. And the little girl's like, ah! But I don't think the laughter and the joking probably took very long to wear off. When they realized this wasn't just a field that's become full of these little frogs, that their whole life had been taken over and encompassed by frogs. How annoyed would that make them? How frustrated would that be? Brother Allen said they like to eat. I can't help but wonder if they went to eat their food and the frogs didn't eat a lot of it.
I like to eat them.
Oh, well, you would be fat. So there would be a plenty of an abundance. You know, even the smallest of creatures, Brother Allen, when there's that many, they might take you over. Frogs were everywhere. What a way of life. Pharaoh sent his magicians to do the same. And we know historical context says that their magicians were able to have a lot of these powers. But the devil's true. The devil's real. He has these powers. But he's not more powerful than God. And that's what we see out of verse number 7. And the magicians did so with their enchantments and brought up frogs from the land of Egypt. But you know what this passage don't tell us here? What this passage don't tell us is there's something happened right there, because verse number 8 immediately goes to Pharaoh, calling for Moses and Aaron, entreating the Lord that He may take away the frogs. Now, I don't preach a lot of speculation, I don't preach a lot of opinion, but I'm going to right here. So just take this. This is Aaron's opinion. Pharaoh sat back there, and these frogs came up everywhere. Pharaoh probably looked at Moses, and he said, yeah, watch this. Hey, bring forth my magicians. Y'all do your thing. Show them this ain't nothing great. And then the frogs doubled. You see, the point is not what went through his mind. The point is his response. Oh, hey, whoa, stop this. Stop it right now. Entreat your God to take these away. Get rid of them. That had been Pharaoh's wife over there. What are you talking about? You brought in more frogs. Just leave it alone. I don't know. But the fact is, there come a time to where even Pharaoh said, hey, take these frogs away. Get rid of them. You have the Lord take them away from me, take them away from my people, and I will let the people go. You see, now we've had a change in the whole situation. The whole mentality has been shifted. Sin has been made known. The consequences of sin has been made known to Pharaoh. He was suffering. His people were suffering. Pharaoh finally got it. When I teach UMTs, I talk about the light switch coming on. You can teach a principle, teach a principle, teach a principle. When their eyes go, whoop, you'll know they understand it. Pharaoh understood that God was more powerful and that he needed to let people go. Verse number 9, Moses said to Pharaoh, the honor is yours to tell me, but when shall I entreat for you? That your servants and your people, not the frogs, be destroyed from you in the houses, and they be left in the night. You see, God even gives Pharaoh an opportunity to say when these frogs could disappear. They're swarmed. Everywhere they're looking, there's frogs. Food, bathtub, you name it, in their shoes, in their clothes drawers, in the car, jumping out of the gas tank. He said, I want them gone. Okay. When do you want them gone? Now here's the importance, here's the difference between God sending the great earthquake and sending the frogs. Verse number 9, or verse number 10. And he said, tomorrow. And Moses said, be it according to thy word, thou mayest know that there is none like unto the Lord our God. You see, why didn't Pharaoh say, right now? I'm tired of it. Just tell him to do it tomorrow. You see, I just want one more night with the frogs. We laugh. We shake our head. But how many Christians hold on to that sin until tomorrow? How many Christians feel the conviction of God? How many people that need to know Christ as their Savior feel the convicting power of God drawing them unto Him? They know they're unsaved. They know they need to be saved. They know when they're going for eternity. And instead of receiving this free gift of salvation, they say, I'll do it tomorrow. I want to choose to continue in these consequences. I know it's bad. I know it's tearing me apart. I know it's separating my family. I know it's harming me. But I'll change it tomorrow. That's the reality of sin. It is that bad. It is that destructive. It is that powerful. But we as humans have so much pride and have so much arrogance and have so much, I don't know what word I'm looking for, that we want to hold on to it. And we don't want to turn away from it. What kind of person would put off the elimination of this horrible event? What kind of person would put off the elimination of the horrible event on all of his people? You see, the entire land of Egypt would have been freed from the plague if God Or if Pharaoh had just said, I'll let you people go now. Take the frogs away, go get your people and go. But he continued to put his family and his servants and his land through torment. There's a lot of people today, fathers and mothers, grandparents, children, that hold on to sin that they know is wrong, that hold on to things that they know they need to turn away from. And they continue to hurt their family and their loved ones and their friends simply because they say, tomorrow, I want another night with the frogs, so to speak. Verse number 11. And the frogs shall depart from thee, and thy houses from thy servants, from all the people. They'll remain in the river only. Verse number 12. And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried unto the Lord because of the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. Moses made an offer. Pharaoh accepted in Pharaoh's own time. And Moses was faithful to pray and say, God, take them away tomorrow. One more night with the frogs. How about us today? This picture of the frog is a representation of our sin. Do we realize that sin is disgusting? Do we realize that sin is harmful? Do we know that God hates sin? Do we know that it is tearing ourselves and those around us apart? Do we know that we need to give it up? Maybe we know that we're not willing to give it up. I've been able to talk to 2 people in the last couple of weeks, and I appreciate their brutal honesty. I do. It allows me to know how to pray for them better. It allows me to know how to follow them. But I can tell you 2 people that have looked me in the eye and told me, I know I'm a sinner. I know that my sin has separated me from God. I know that Jesus loved me and He died on the cross, but I am not going to give it up. And I am not going to get saved. And that's sad. That's sad to know that these people are willing to pay the eternal price for sin and hell on their own when it's already been paid for. But that is a choice that God gives them. Just like it's a choice He gives Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said, tomorrow. And God honored him. But when we're talking about the consequence of sin and the consequence of eternal life in hell, you're not promised tomorrow. You're only promised the breath you just took. As the Bible tells us, no man knows the day, no man knows the hour. You don't know when your life is going to end. You don't know when that 911 call is going to be made and you're going to be the subject in question. You don't know if the ambulance and the nurses and doctors are going to be able to provide care for you because you may not see that day. And when you rebuke the consequence of sin and when you rebuke God and His love for you, you are assuming the responsibility to pay for your sin in the depths of hell for all eternity. That probably is one of the saddest things on the face of the earth. But I'll tell you what may come into a close second. That may be a child of God that has accepted Christ and is saved, but they're holding on to that sin, rendering them ineffective for the kingdom of heaven. It may be that man or woman or that boy or that girl that has an opportunity to share the Word of God and to share the message of God with somebody who is on their way to hell. But they're holding on to sin in their life, and they're not serving God, and they're being a hindrance to somebody else knowing Christ as their Savior. Why do we want another night with the frogs? Why do we want another night or another day or another hour in the filthy sin lifestyle that we live? Why do we not realize that sin has to be taken care of? Why do we want to say we'll get rid of it tomorrow? You know, in verse number 13, the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out. Left the houses, and left the courts, they left the fields, they died, except those in the river. Hallelujah, right? No, it was just then that the people realized the consequences of their sin. What did we see in verse number 14? They gathered them together. They were mounded up. They were piled up in large heaps. And they stank. You see, I talked to our young people last year. I think it was in camp. Yeah, we can repent. We can change. We can give up our sin and go the other way. But there's still consequences. And every day that they continued down that road, there were more and more frogs. And even when they turned back, and even when God was faithful to remove the frogs from them, they were dead, decaying, stinking frogs. They lived every day with the consequences. You see, a lot of times, Christian uses their salvation as a license to continue sin. And if that's the case, I'm sorry if this is too forward, but if that is truly the case, if a Christian is truly using their salvation as a license to sin, I want to truly have them examine themselves to see if they truly know what salvation is all about. I want to talk with them and make sure they understand that salvation is more than just I'm no longer going to hell and I have an eternal home in heaven. It is a confessing with the mouth and believing in the heart. It is a relationship. It is a commitment. It is an ongoing process. Of growing and maturing in the Word of God. Verse number 15, you think Pharaoh learned his lesson. So when Pharaoh saw them was rescued, he hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them. That's what the Lord said. Did he let their people go? I don't know about you, there's been many times in my life I said, God, tomorrow I'll give this up. God, I'll give this up in a little while. If you'll just deliver me, God, I'll do this. But did I do it? I didn't. And I just found myself in a different predicament. If you take the chapters on out through verse 8 and chapter 8 and chapter 9, you'll see that lice came. You'll see other plagues came. Because this was a cycle that Pharaoh was in. You would have thought that he would have learned his lesson. But when Pharaoh saw them was relief, he hardened his heart. And he did not listen. He did not let God's people go. This is the way the majority of people treat sin. I want to share with you an illustration in closing. Because Many, many people one day lost their lives in an event that took place on the face of this earth. The world's mightiest army was forced to abandon a very strategic military base. Property damage, valued at over $1 billion, occurred because the sleeping giant Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines came back to life after 600 years. When asked to account for the incredible amount of destruction caused by the eruption of this volcano, a scientist from the Philippines observed this. When a volcano is silent for that many years, people forget that it's a volcano and they begin to treat it like it's a mountain. Mount Pinatubo is a picture of our sinful nature. We have to realize that a fact of sin today is that we all have the potential to avoid. Be sure your sin will find you out. But for years we may seemingly get away with it. We may think that nobody knows about it. But it's just a matter of time till it brings harm upon yourself, your family, and others around you. The biggest mistake we can make is to ignore the volcano and move on to the dormant mountain of sin. The biggest mistake we can make is to say, tomorrow I'll turn it around. Sin is bad. Sin is disgusting. Sin is harmful. The problem is, how do we view it? In conclusion, do we view sin the same way that God does? Let me break this down a little bit. Man seems to call sin an accident. God calls it an abomination. Man calls it a defect, but God calls it a disease. Man calls sin an error, but God says it's an enemy. Man calls it taking liberty, and God says it's being lawless. Man calls it a trifle, but God calls it a tragedy. Man calls it a mistake, and God says it's madness. Man calls it weakness, but God says it's your willfulness. We don't view sin the same as God does. But if we could, we would deal with it a lot differently. For many people, they remain walking down the path of life that they're on, unbothered and unchanged. Sin will take you farther than you ever thought you would stray. Sin will leave you lost. You think you'll never, ever find your way. Sin will keep you longer than you ever thought you'd stay. And sin will cost you more than you ever thought you could pay. That is a point that is applicable to the Christian that knows Christ as your Savior. Here's a different version that's applicable to the person that God may be calling today to receive salvation. To the person that's lost, to the person that says, I've never given my life to Christ. Sin will take you farther than you ever thought you'd stray. And sin will leave you so lost that you will never ever find your way. Sin will keep you longer than you ever thought you'd stay. And sin will cost you more than you will ever be able to repay. If you are concerned about some sin that God has laid in your life, give it over to Him today. I want to close with one more illustration. And it allows us to see sin how God sees it. And then we'll move into our invitation. I've asked Brother Scott if he'd help me. We pull those 3 chairs right here in the front. And sit on the far right one over here. Brother Andrew, do you mind helping me too? You're going to sit in this chair over here, okay? Yeah, the one he's bringing. Now this is Andrew Dickens, if you haven't met him. He's a church member here, but he's going to be representing God. He's not God, okay? This is just God sitting there. And this is Brother Scott Pack. And I've got some different things here for you. I want you to hold that up. I want you to hold this up. I want you to hold this up. What do they consider it there again? Got that? What do all these bags have in common? They hold trash. Right? They will hold trash, I'll put it that way. Every one of these bags will hold trash. If you had to take the trash of your life, and I ask you to do this for a reason. If you had to take the trash of your life, the sin of your life, which bag would you need to hold? You can drop the rest. Thank you. He chose the big bag. He's humble. But he also knows that Paul himself said, I am the chiefest of all sinners. You say this is how man views sin. We view sin based on little bitty bag. Well, maybe I've got a little more to fit in the little bag. Maybe I'll need a little bit bigger bag. I need the biggest bag we got. But here's the truth. In the Garden of Eden, when Adam and Eve committed the sin, they had to be removed from the presence of God. They had to be kicked out of the garden where the tree of life was. There was a separation that took place. There is no greater separation between this man and God, with this many sins, as there is between this man and God with these little bitty sins. And I know this is elementary, but when we see sin the way God sees it, we see ourselves in whatever shape we're in, separated from the perfect relationship that He desires to have with us. I don't care how much Brother Scott tries to get rid of his sin. He'll never be able to come right beside the Savior with sin in his life. Don't matter if it's a big bag. Don't matter if it's a little bag. But the fact is, the fact is, a lot of times we say tomorrow because I want to say, as a human, you'll need that big bag. She probably could use a smaller bag. He just needs a little bitty bag. He might. Yeah, that's probably. We laugh about it. But the truth is, it don't matter how big they are. What matters is if there's sin in your life, it is destructive, it is harmful, and it is tearing you apart. And God has promised you forgiveness. And God, just like He gave Pharaoh, has promised you the opportunity that you can choose when you want to do it. And we bow our head and we close our eyes. How many of us will say tomorrow? How many of us would choose another night with a thrall? That's not God's desire. That's not it. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for the day. We thank you for everything that you've given us. God, be with us in this time of invitation. Be with us as we search our hearts and our minds. God, we thank you for giving us deliverance from our sin. God, we thank you for loving us enough that you sent your Son to die on the cross. But God, may we not view sin through the eyes of man any longer. May we not classify sin as bad, worse, or the worst. But may we just see sin in our lives as something that has hindered our relationship with you. And something that if we don't deal with is going to erupt like a mighty volcano, causing destruction to ourselves and others' lives. God, may those that have accepted you as their Savior realize this morning that sin left in our lives undealt with is causing a hindrance for our service for you. And God, it may be that very thing that keeps somebody from knowing you as their Savior. And God, if there's anybody here that you are knocking at the door of their heart, that you have placed your conviction upon them, that they know that they're lost, that they need to receive you as their Savior, God, don't let them leave. God, allow them to understand that they can give that over to you today, that you have already paid the price, that you will give them deliverance. Whatever it be that you place on our heart or mind in this time of invitation, just allow us to be faithful to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.